What's up everyone? Today we have a little Ryobi pressure washer that's missing a few pieces. The only thing I've done so far is I checked for oil. I also purchased a housing, came with an air filter, also a new carburetor because, well, I'll show you. Let's get started. So the reason why I had to buy a whole new air filter, carb, what am I doing? That's not even close to what I was looking for. Was because the one that came with it, the choke lever, is broken. Can't really buy just the choke lever. I mean, if you can, I just didn't find it. So I opted just to buy a whole new carb because I'm sure this one is also probably just disgusting. So we're going to turn off the fuel, which I don't know if it's even on. Let's find out. Or if there even is fuel, I should check. Not 100% sure what engine this is. It's definitely not a Honda. It's a Honda clone for sure. I don't really know what type of Honda clone. I mean, suppose it could be, I don't know, just a clone. I know I was walking by a place in Walmart, either like a lawn and garden area, to pick up some potting soil for a couple plants to get started for the year, and I noticed that the Black Bear, something like that, the exact same engine. So knowing that, I can imagine it's not the greatest of engines, but it is a 2900 psi. There we go. Now I got the seal broken off of it. 2.3 gallons per minute. The pump itself seems to be pretty decent. I have no idea if it works, but if at the end case, if I ever get something with a bad motor or a motor missing pieces like this, that's just too much, I at least know that this motor could probably work for it. Fuel is older, not super old. I wouldn't want to run it with it, so we're not going to. What is going on with this? Uh-oh. The first case of funkery we run across with this thing. That should not be there. That makes me wonder if there was a surging problem and they took this as a potential way of solving a surging problem. Pay more attention on the spring. Oh, man, I don't know why that was so difficult. Let us take a sample of fuel and see if it's A, old fuel, B, old fuel with water, C, just water, or D, potentially something we can still run. Pretty sure it's not going to be the last one. So I'm going to let this settle, and I'll bring it back once we take a look at it. Okay, it's actually a little bit later, and I got a phone call from another project, so yay. Having said that, it's going to be a little bit of a different one. There we go. Also drained the fuel That's why the fuel line's on the right, in the right spot. I'm gonna put the spring. In fact, this side's also not connected, so we'll just connect it to both correct locations. Perfect. Some of the fuel might still be in the line, but it's okay. It will drip out when we put it through here. Let's make sure. Yeah, there's a little bit. It didn't have water in it, so that's good. That is not encouraging whatsoever. Even with a clamp on there, it's pretty loose. This fuel line, I think, is kind of old. I'm going to take it off the other end. I mean, technically this fuel line came with it, but hilariously, I'm sure it's going to be too small. Well, maybe not. We might just use the fuel line that came with it, actually. But the question is, this fuel line is very thick. Very thick. Do I have clamps for this? Or did they provide clamps? I don't think they did. Let me double check and see if they have any clamps, and then we'll continue. I'm not gonna lie, the fuel line they provided is one step above garbage. But it is fuel line. And when looking at the container, they also did provide the necessary fuel clamps. They're not the cheap ones. Well, they don't feel very cheap. The line does. But the clamps seem to be fine. So we're going to use those. Okie dokie. So we have throttle connected up. You know what I forgot to do? All this excitement of a new project coming along the way, I forgot to just set that off to the side a little bit. Put on the gasket, because I think the gasket, did it come off? Yeah, I believe it came off with the old carb, and you know, you can take it off, don't get me wrong, but in situations like that, why? You know? Just why? We could just simply... There's a hole. Let me see if the other one has a hole. It does. Oh, I guess it did come off relatively easily. It's not really even needed because that's a vent. Whatever, you know. We will use what we were given. Yeah, like this, okay. Now we can go ahead and put the fuel line on. Plier hands. Next we're going to put on this gasket. It should go on like so. This is the air housing, or air filter housing. Definitely has a Chinesium feel to it. I am about 90% sure the same factory that made this air filter housing and the fuel line was probably the same factory that actually built this machine. Granted, probably not, but still, it's not the highest quality of machines, I'm not gonna lie. But if it runs, makes power, it's not like you have to use it for very long or very often. You know, do you really need something super powerful? Probably not. As long as it works, you know. Choke lever is now choke levering. I'm going to apply some oil to this, but I'm going to do that after, because if I have to take this off, I don't want to deal with a oily filter. That'll be one of the final steps. But usually those sponge filters, you need an oil. And one thing I did not mention, at least I don't think I did, is I got this about 8 or 9 months ago. It's been a while. And in that 8 or 9 months, when I first got it, I noticed that the pump had a little funkery going on. It was missing this piece as well as this piece. I had extras from previous pumps, and that one came off of a different pump that was scrap, so everything hopefully works. If not, then like I said, we will just have a good functioning engine, I hope, and we'll take it from there. We could worry about pumps later, because if it has to wait another 8 or 9 months for a pump or a pressure washer that has a bad motor, you know, there's always going to be someone that runs it without oil. I don't usually show this, but, you know, why not? I know I harp on a lot of videos, but if this is the first time you are seeing one of mine and you have not heard me harp on the importance of non-ethanol fuel, well, you're going to hear it for the first time. If you have heard it before, well, you're going to hear it again. This is non-ethanol. Basically, ethanol, it doesn't attract water, but it will bind with water. Water and fuel, or water and engines, not the best, you know. Generally, engines don't run on water, at least not the ones I run. Maybe yours is different. Let's turn the fuel on. So, when you have ethanol fuel, you instantly run the chance of having water issues. In addition to that, ethanol degrades the fuel line, it degrades pretty much everything it touches. So it's not a good thing to have. And with a pressure washer, something that is designed to be ran around water, I would imagine you would also want to take this step when you're using like a snow blower. I don't really see too many of those, so I don't really worry about it. But if you do, you know, non-ethanol might be something you want to look into. So the fuel's on. That's free. Let's give it a pull. See what happens. I don't know what way is choke. Choke is on. Oops. So choke is, no choke is that way. Choke is facing this. Okay. It survived. I think our next project or next task is going to be seeing if it makes any pressure with the pump, and if not, then well, at least we know we have a good running engine. It's probably at least 5.5 horsepower, I would imagine. It doesn't really say too much, but if it's powering a 2900 psi pump, I would hope it's at least that size. So let me get a hose ready. Here's the thing I'm going to go over as well. Before I connect the hose, because I'm not going to really show it because it's really boring, I'm going to connect my garden hose, turn the water on. It's going to go flow through the pump. It's going to empty out a whole lot of bubbles, empty out the air. It makes it easier. Then I'm going to install the hose. I'm not going to have the wand on. I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to turn off the water again. Put the wand on, turn the water on again, and try to get as much air out of the system as I can. Air isn't really that big of a problem, but what is a problem is plugging a tip. The tip is going to be really aggravating if it gets plugged, so I'm trying to flush out all the impurities. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll bring you back. Okay, here we are. Let's do this. Besides the connection to the hose, like the O-ring or whatever is considered, it's trash. I have to replace it, but it's not leaking. Yeah, need to replace that hose seal, but other than that, seems like it's doing pretty good. Pump appears to be doing fine, runs pretty good, it's not smoking. I needed to put a new plug in it, probably new oil. Oil seemed a little nasty, but it's a little warmed up now, so I'm okay with just changing it now. So if you have a, what is this, a Ryobi 2900 psi 2.3 gallon per minute pressure washer, and yours is not starting, this is a good way to fix it. Total cost for the carburetor, I believe, was like $14. I'll have to double check. I'll put it on the screen now. So $14 is going to be a pretty cheap alternative for, you know, getting something to work. This is a little bit different because I never actually had it, but if your choke lever is broken, you kind of need to do this piece anyway. The only real difference that you're not going to have to do is you're not going to have to buy a air filter housing. So hopefully this helped. If you like what you see, keep watching. Definitely subscribe. Catch me on the next video. Follow me at Small Engine 101 on Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.